Welcome, everybody, back to the VHS Vault. I am one of your hosts, VHS Jase, and next to me is the great man, Jason Roy Gaston. And on the VHS Vault, this episode was your pick.
Yes, it was. By golly, geez, yes, I'll be darned. This is my pick. Gee whiz. Let's talk about it.
What made you pick this film for us to look at? What is it about this film in particular that you went, this needs to be revisited and talked about?
Well, Pleasantville was a transformative experience for me. I went in to go see this movie because it was being marketed as a two kids get trapped in an old TV show, hilarity and hijinks ensue, blah, blah, blah type of movie. And I go in expecting that kind of movie because I remember I didn't really want to go see it, but then there was nothing really else playing. I wanted to go see a movie, so I went and saw Pleasantville. And this movie is not that. It is not a two people get trapped in a TV show.
Which is also a great idea done well. Is it a movie called Rewind with the great John Ritter? About a movie, Canadian movie, where they get stuck into television. We'll have to do that.
Where the devil traps them?
No, it might be the devil.
It was like Jeffrey Jones, wasn't it? Jeffrey Jones is
so.
The devil.
I just have good memory. Yeah.
See, here it was called Stay Tuned.
Oh, it is called Stay Tuned.
Oh,
sorry,
stinking Australia. I don't know what's up with you. But Pleasantville. Anyway, I saw this movie, and it was transformative. As I said, it was beautiful. There were moments in this movie that I actually like wept out loud, not only because it is beautiful, but there are just parts that spoke to me, parts that just spoke to the person deep inside me about, you don't have to be anything. You can be what you want. You don't have to conform to be what other people want. And, for someone of my age at the time, I was like 23 when this came out. And that really spoke to me. And so I actually went and changed my college major after watching this movie because I realized that what I was doing wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went and did something else.
That's incredible. I remember seeing this, when it came out, and it's not like I remember enjoying it, but I don't know. It was the time in my life where it wasn't really like resonate. I just remember it being kind of good. But I've had a similar experience to you, though I'm not changing my major anytime soon. But I've had that experience of it profoundly affecting me when I just watched this 2 days ago. Like, I can't believe how emotionally powerful this film was on a rewatch, and everything that didn't wash over, I didn't absorb the first time. I certainly drank it all in on this rewatch. This is a beautiful film. I'd say this is one of the great films of the 90s. Like, it just has a power behind it, and it's very misleading the way they market this movie because it's, even on Wikipedia, they call it a teenage fantasy. This film is way more than a teenage fantasy. I think this deals with giant social issues that are not only probably important back 30 years ago when they made it, but even feel more apt to the current world we live in. It's a stunning movie. I'm going to wrap because it's a simple idea, and the way they weave the complexity in this simple idea is executed in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's preaching. It doesn't feel like it's filling you with information. You're enjoying the ride as you go through it. And, mate, sometimes you've showed me these things on the VHS file and gone, oh, that's great. That's great. But this one has to be, out of all the films that you may have recommended I haven't seen, this one so far takes a cake by a mile.
Yeah, I really, if you've never seen Pleasantville, I'm pretty sure it's because you probably thought, well, I don't want to see a movie about two kids trapped in a TV show because that can't be that funny. It's not what you think it is. This is basically a movie that works on so many fronts. Number one, it deconstructs the myth of the good old days. Whenever people
Oh,
say, "Well,
yes.
I remember back in the good old days, everything was better." And this movie dares to look you right in the eye and say, "Was it though? Was it really? Are we
Yeah.
really gonna say that?" It
Yeah.
is it's an analogy for um, basically conservative towns or conservative communities squashing creativity to get people to fit into a mold. It is an allegory for segregation and racism. And beyond that, it is just, as I said, it is an outstandingly beautifully shot movie. First of all, one thing that I don't think this movie gets credit for, first of all, is the fact that it captures the look of a 1950s sitcom. Whenever I was younger, I was obsessed, and God, I cannot believe I'm admitting this publicly. I was obsessed with this old TV show called The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. I have
Mhm.
no idea why, but every time there was a rerun of it, I would watch it. So basically, I was Toby Maguire, except my show was The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Just the way they shot the show, Joan Allen, for example, looks so much like that
Mm.
stereotypical 1950s housewife. And she gives a fantastically nuanced performance. I thought that she came off as almost frightening at the very beginning. It was almost a Stepford Wives situation. And as she goes on and she discovers things about herself, she ends up becoming this very sad, lost person. And then she goes into becoming a passionate rebel. And I will say that one scene whenever William H. Macy is encouraging her to put on the makeup to make herself black and white again, and he says
Mm.
it'll go away. When she looks at him and she says, "I don't want it to go away." I don't know what it is about Joan Allen's line delivery there, but I get emotional listening to that.
Mm.
She is just that good in this role. Again, if you've never seen this movie, I am highly encouraging you to watch it because you are missing out on something special. Plus, kind of a sad but interesting note, it's also Don Knotts' last movie.
Oh, I was gonna get to Don Knotts because I'm a
Yeah.
massive Don Knotts
Oh,
fan
I
growing
love
up
him in
with
this
him,
movie. The
and
part
he
where
is genius in this
the
movie.
I love the fact that Don Knotts not only manages to carry over his wholesome image, but there's one scene where he basically gets angry and he
Yeah, he rips
starts
him a new one.
yeah, he rips him a new one and he's like, what the hell do you think you're doing? Give me that goddamn remote. And I'm just like, Don! Uncle
He's
Don,
so good
no!
in there. But
He
I
was
wanted to go
great.
I just wanted to go back to, how you talk about analogy of racism, that what I took from it, and it was also representing the white nationalism that swept America after World War II, with all the men came home and created a society of control. A lot of this movie highlights the control we have. And I mean, it baffles me that this film should be played on television a lot at the moment, because I think there's the world right needs to be reminded that this quest to go back to a time that never really existed. And this film highlights that wonderfully. And it is, I mean, look, I'm a white guy, I can say it like that. The white guys are the villain.
Yes, they are. They are the villains in this movie. And I will go a step beyond. I honestly there are a lot of very very obvious and very blatant parallels to fascism and Nazism in this movie as
Mhm.
well as the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, for
Mm.
goodness sakes, at one point they have an out and out book burning. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
books that Toby Maguire is telling the diner about, uh Catcher in the Rye and Huckleberry Finn are some of the most banned books in America right now.
Yeah,
That
it's
was not
insane.
yeah, that was not an accident. That was
Yeah.
highly intentional.
This movie in many ways is so ahead of its time. I mean, it's so ahead of its time. It would be accused, if you made this film today, it would be accused of being highly political. But it's more than the politics, this film. It is really looking at the heart of creativity too. You talk about Joe Allen's performance. big shout out to Jeff Daniels,
Oh
who
my
who has this realization, this awakening, kind of on his own, because he's really the first one after Toby kind of says, well, you can make the burgers a different way. And it just, it's like a small snowball, the top of a hill. It just snowballs, it gets bigger and bigger. He actually comes out, and he is the catalyst for trying to make the whole town awaken, especially with that Muriel. That Muriel just says so much, and the reaction to that. Tobey Maguire, man, you can see why they gave him Spider-Man after this film, because they're going, not only does this kid look like a Peter Parker, he delivers a wonderful performance on this, and he is the glue through this.
I enjoyed this one scene in particular involving Bill and Betty, the mom and the malt shop guy, and it's whenever Bill comes to the front door and tells Toby, I usually do this and I usually do this, but I didn't this time. I did it this way. You feel proud of him. But then Betty comes to the door and they share that glance, and Tobey Maguire's standing between them. And he does this really awkward kind of, and he knows. He knows.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah, he figured it all
so
out.
Great.
Yeah, and it is. Also, too, I want a big shout out to Reese Witherspoon, very young actress in this, who has this really great character arc from being really a schoolgirl obsessed with being popular and being maybe a bit loose with her sexuality, to somebody who finds this new joy and awakening in books. And I'm like, how many freaking movies do you see out there where you have a young female lead who actually has a great arc like that? You just don't. So,
I really like the way that this movie found a happy medium between her old life and her new one.
Yeah.
That she does not quite lose the person she is, because controversial opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying sex. I really don't. And if you are a young woman or a young man who does, be responsible, but you know what? Enjoy it. I don't think she completely becomes the 1950s teenager at the end. I do think that she grows and she finds a happy medium in between the two, which I think it was a sweet idea.
Well, maybe I didn't clarify. Let me clarify. Using her sexuality for popularity was the concern that I was making. Using it as a way to become more seen. She learned she doesn't have to do that. But yes, she does teach her mum a couple of neat tricks, which helps her mum.
Teaches her mom a brand new way to commit arson. I have to say, though,
which is hilarious.
Have to say, I don't know how much attention you paid to the scene where the tree caught fire. Yeah. That is actually a very advanced technological shot, because it's not only like a color fire on a black and white tree, but if you look, all of the light that is coming off the tree is color, and it's reflecting on the black and white faces and the black and white surfaces of everything. And you watch that and it's so subtle. Yeah. It's so subtle, that color. And I'm just looking at that going, how did they do this in 1998?
Mate, the color graders are definitely earning their money on this job. I think this movie is impossible to execute in that way, not only from an effects, but it comes from a vision here. This is a vision by the writer-director Gary Ross. It was his vision to do this. And I think all those little nuances in what's color and what's not, and knowing how important that is, that you buy in on that, and how well it was executed, was fantastic, and what it represents. In one way, it could just be a visual neat trick, but no, it represents change. It represents evolution. It represents an awakening every time a character became color, and you celebrate that moment with them. It's just, I can't say enough of it. I mean, it gave you joyous tears. I didn't have any sad tears, but I did have tears because there's this joy around this film. I just don't see enough of it anymore. Maybe they're out there, but they're buried in a mountain of, streaming services. Here's a film that just kind of blew me away. You know what it does remind me of? Only because of the feeling it gave me. is a couple of other 90s classics, which is The Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile.
You only say that because they stole that one shot with Tobey Maguire with his hands up in the air with a.
Well, who stole it first? We'd have to have a look at the timelines.
I'm pretty sure Shawshank did it first.
Right.
But you know what? It's a good shot.
But it has this epic emotionality to it, which is, I think, familiar with those other two films. And man, like, what can I say? Too? It's a small story as well, you know. And their world building is excellent, with a big highlight to that school very early on when he's in the world, getting the geography lesson.
Yes.
And I thought it's a very simple joke, but it does help establish the world we're in. It tells us we're trapped. Because up to that point, you don't know really, you know, like the geography, but it's got two streets, man, and that's it. And they all go in circles.
This is a fairy tale, in my opinion. I mean, it even starts out with the words "Once upon a time." This is a modern fairy tale of two people entering a magical land and changing it. Pleasantville could have easily been a horror movie too. Because it has a very Twilight Zone element to the very beginning, where everyone is almost like a non-playable character, just going about their lives.
And at times the film, at times I did think that, because it has another great actor who I love, because he plays such a D-bag in every film he's in, but he's an excellent actor, J.T. Walsh. And his character, at to some point, I'm thinking, is this going to evolve into violence? But thankfully the film kind of doesn't go down that pathway. It deals with it in another way, which I was almost like Frank Capra-esque, you know, this moment at the end of this film where like everyone's together and these realizations are made. But yeah, it's a fairy tale. It's an Americana fairy tale. And I say that in the best possible way, because it is thoroughly enjoyable.
Absolutely. I love the fact about this movie. A lot of people say that what was his name? Big Bob. A lot of people say that JT Walsh's character, Big Bob, is the villain of the movie. It's not. The villain of the movie is fear.
Yeah.
That is what everyone has to conquer.
Fear of change.
Yeah, the fear of change, the fear of themselves.
Yeah.
For example, you know, Peter Parker. Oh my gosh. Tobey Maguire's character has to learn to be more assertive and take up for himself. You know, his fear of other people, his fear. You see it at the very beginning. His fear of confrontation, his fear of dealing with other people. Whenever he's trying to talk to the girl and he's like standing across the courtyard because he's too scared to talk to her. You have Reese Witherspoon, and her fear is her own intellect. She's afraid of her own intelligence. And then you have the NPCs. You know, the wife, Joan Allen, she has an awakening, giggity. And William H. Macy's character, which was such a beautiful scene. William H. Macy is such a fantastic actor, but that scene where Tobey Maguire just talks to him and tells him, you know, think about how much you love your wife, and he's just sitting there looking at her, and he's got this look on his face and a tears going down his face, and that is so good. There are no weak links in this movie, and I'm going to say something that's going to sound very insulting, and I don't mean it to be. Paul Walker is in this movie.
Oh, yes.
I do not think Paul Walker was that great of an actor, but in this movie, he's fantastic. This is Paul Walker's best role, and I know it's not a very huge part, but just the way he is, it's almost like a child being given a brand new toy, and he wants to play with it all the time, and then whenever he can't have it, he kind of loses it. He loses it mentally, and I thought that was so great. But yeah, I racked my brain trying to think of a single actor in this movie who dragged it down. None of them do. Not even the small incidental actors. Everyone in this
Not even the guy who ran the hardware store. Doing it. Like, everybody bring it.
It was great. I loved him. So many people also in the background of this movie that you probably recognized. I always mispronounce her name. Jane Kaczmarek.
Oh,
was
yes. Yes.
was David's was Toby and Reese's mom. She's
Yeah,
the mom from Malcolm in the Middle.
of course.
You had as one of the background characters, you had Mark Blucas, who a couple of years later would hit it big with his part on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Ah, yes,
And
yes.
then also in the background, in the same scenes, you had Danny Strong, who also made it big later with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And just I could just keep
Uh,
going on and on
you know,
about everyone in this movie because everyone in this movie
this
was
movie
so
represents
they
the
were
best of
committed to the
Hollywood.
idea, and I just love that. Nobody was okay. I saw the Minecraft movie today, and I told you about it because you asked me how was it. I said it was terrible. It was terrible. Do you want to know what made that movie terrible? It was the fact that not a single actor believed in it, and you could tell. You could tell that none of them took it seriously. You could tell that none of them thought it was any good. Jack Black is basically just making fun of it the entire time he's in it. There's no passion to his performance at all. And I like Jack Black, and you know what? Whenever I say he had no passion, he was trying. He was doing his best. But you could tell he was not there. He was not he just was not believing in it.
No,
Everyone in this movie believes in it, and it is so evident to this lovely, beautiful film that they've put together that, again, if you have not seen, by God, you better go see it right now.
to me, it so represents the best of Hollywood. Like it does, because these type of films to me are sometimes the magic of Hollywood. And to see something like this to go, oh, this is great, because this is also a love letter to classic. I think he's making this film also to a love letter to films 60 years prior. And the fact that he not only is able to make it a love letter, but then to seriously examine the themes in it in such a magical way. And you say it's a fairy tale. What is the best things about the biggest fairy tales we know? Is there a simple story that can be complex the more you look into it, and the fact that they resonate. And this is a story that absolutely resonates. I don't know how this film lost money, Jason, but can you believe on
People are
release
stupid.
this thing was a $60 budget? So $60 million budget. So you can imagine a big chunk of that was for the effects at the time. It only
There were
made,
more visual effects in this movie than there was visual effects in Star Wars Episode 1. There's
there
a
you
fact for
go.
you.
Well, it only made $49 million in return domestically, which is a bit of a shame. I don't know what was out at the time, or maybe just people weren't wanting to go to the movies that week. Either way, it was a disappointing thing. But so was Shawshank Redemption, a movie I mentioned earlier. That was a bomb at the theaters too. I wonder, in the zeitgeist, Jason, is this film recognized more now today, do you think? Or do you still think this is a hidden gem that nobody talks about enough?
I wish this movie was talked about more. This is a movie that even I have occasionally forgotten about because no one talks about Pleasantville. And I think that's a shame. I think it's time that people take a look back, because now more than ever, there are so many messages that you can take away from Pleasantville.
Oh,
In the
mate,
political climate, in the
oh,
social climate, this can speak to people who are in the closet. This can speak to people who feel like
absolutely.
that they're not included. This can speak to people who, inner city, rural, urban, anybody can look at this movie and say, yeah, I understand. This
Yeah.
is about me.
It's such a counter antidote to all the negativity we currently experience now. Man, if I was a teacher of 11, 12-year-olds, this is a film I would absolutely, I suppose you couldn't because of the awakening moment. Is this film rated R? Is it PG? What is this film?
I want to say it's PG, but
Yeah,
it's got some parts in it that I'm like, how was this PG-13?
yeah.
How was
It's the
it?
90s. It was a different time.
Yeah,
But I
the
do think young adolescents at some point, maybe teenagers, would get a lot out of this, especially with the stuff that they're fed every day through these phones. It's because it's a beautiful message at the end of it, isn't it? And then it's to accept and not to be afraid of change, and to be true to yourself and be nice to people, and all. It's just wonderful messaging. It's great, and it's not buried. It's not buried under some religion You know what I mean? Like when people are nice in films, there's always a religion behind it. Oh, they're a good Catholic, they're a good Christian. Religion not really plays part of this, and I kind of appreciate that too. It's man, this is great. Great film. I'm actually going to watch it again tonight with my wife because I don't think my wife has seen it. And I was like, you have got to see this movie. It's phenomenal. And that's the highest recommendation because normally by the time we've watched these films, I'm like, right, let's get on to the next one. No, man, I'm going to live with this for a few more days yet.
Oh, yeah, definitely watch it. Digest it, ruminate in it, marinate in it. By gosh, again, I've said this like 6 times, but if you have not seen Pleasantville, you need to watch it because it is not what you think it is. And I really think that's why it bombed at the box office because everyone thought it was that silly 2 people trapped in a TV show movie. I don't want to watch a movie that's black and white all the time. No, it's not. It's not. I loved it. I loved every
where and how did you watch it? What streaming services was it available to you, Jase?
It is currently not on a streaming service for free. You
have to pay for it. Yeah.
I have the DVD.
Okay. I believe it's on Prime. Amazon Prime. You can get a hold of it. It's worth the $3 rental. It really is.
Absolutely. I had actually already bought a digital copy. Actually, I didn't buy a digital copy. The digital copy came with the DVD. But that's where I ended up watching it. But yeah, it's one of the first DVDs I ever bought because it's got the cardboard case with the little snappy thing at the end. You know, the ones that always broke all the time. But mine hasn't broken because I'm taking care of mine. I love this one.
We're going to go check it out. Now, yeah, fantastic. All right, guys, I think we've pretty well covered what is a special film. We could go into more and spoil some more magical moments. So I don't want to. I just want you to go watch it because if out of all the recommendations we do, this one, I think, is something that you really are going to get value for money. Whether you're 15, 50, 150, if you're that healthy. I think everyone's going to get something out of this that speaks to them.
Yes. Isn't it ironic? Because I said that our last movie, which was Supergirl, was the worst movie that we've ever done on the VHS Vault. This one, I would argue, is the best.
I don't think I can argue that too much because of the quality of it. It's just such the joyous surprise, you know? I mean, you know, a lot of content these days is very serious, deals with very dark stuff. Even your comic book films deal with dark stuff and death. And so nice to see a great film where nobody kills nobody. No one gets stabbed.
Except for the mural.
Except for the mural was the only, and which would be a 1-second background shot in any superhero film we wouldn't even consciously think about because it becomes a centerpiece, an emotional centerpiece in this film, that moment.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a real talented filmmaker who made something that was obviously very personal to him because he wrote it and directed it. Who just like, you know what I mean? Like this is like going in and seeing a great painting from a great artist. I don't know what other films this guy's made, but he knocked it out of the park with this one. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So what do we got coming up next?
Oh, what do we got coming up next?
Hopefully nothing boring. Yeah, do we have anything boring coming up?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's a film so chock full of action. Nah, that's not the movie we're talking about. No, we're talking about Superman Returns, Jase. Superman Returns, highly touted and was a big deal at the time when this movie was getting made, right? This was a controversial thing in the world of Hollywood because you had the X-Men director, Bryan Singer, who had made 2 of the biggest superhero movies at that time, decides to leave this $1 million making machine and go across and do Superman. Yeah. And not just Superman film, a sequel.
A sequel to Superman 2, not Superman 4.
Or 3.
Yeah, or 3.
Or Supergirl. No,
yeah, I like this movie's alternative title, which was
yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
But I guess we'll talk about that later.
No, we'll talk about more Superman Returns, yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that one next time, but the time after that, of course, is we're sending it back to you. You picked out Choppa last time.
Aussie film. We're going back to America, which I think is one of the great 80s road trip movies. And I'm not talking Plane, Trains, Automobiles here. I'm talking a film starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, who was a fantastic comedic actor at the time. And a movie called Midnight Run. and it's wonderful. Made by the people that made Beverly Hills Cop. It was kind of the next film after that. It's got John Ashton from Beverly Hills Cop in it as well. It's a movie about a bounty hunter. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I look forward because you've never seen it.
I've never seen it, so it'll be my first time.
Absolutely. And then after that, we're out of Superman Returns, and then we get another Superman movie, but this is a completely re-envisioning. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of debate about this next series of Superman films when we get into that.
Oh, I love this movie. You can tell by the gigantic smile on my face.
I can't wait. I want to say things now to kind of try to see baits on certain things, but I'm not. I'm going to save it, Jase. We'll save it for the audience. So
yeah, you're a master at baiting. Let me say that. Anyway,
that is true on both.
I guess we can go ahead and announce episode 89 because we did have a request. You need to do more animation. So we're going to do more animation, and
I'm like, oh no, what are we getting?
Yeah, we're gonna have our hearts ripped out of our chest because we're gonna take a look at the Iron Giant.
Which
have you seen it?
Like, I've got a son, mate. We watched that thing like 100 times plus. I know every frame of that movie, and I hate that movie because 9 times out of 10 it still makes me cry. No, it is it's animation at its prime. It showed Disney. That movie is so good, it showed Disney how it's done.
Well, we had Paul Walker in his best role in this movie, and I will argue that that's Vin Diesel's best movie is The Iron
Yes.
Giant. And I do not mean that as an insult. It takes talent to voice act, and Vin Diesel was awesome in this movie.
Groot here. He was better in Iron Giant than was Groot. Nah, I mean, like, we've talked about this. We kind of only just talked about this yesterday, but we're both massive Warner Brother animation fans, I would say. I love Looney Tunes. Yeah. I always loved Warner Brothers art style and the way they do this. And this one very much harkened back to that. Like, there's very beautiful Warner Brothers animation in this. But it's animation schmanimation. It's full of heart. So I can't wait to talk about the Iron Giant.
Yes, me too. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
that's it.
Let me tell you how you can support us, because I know you're waiting to hear those words. How can I support an endeavor like the VHS Vault? Well, my friends, all you have to do is go to our Patreon page. There's a link in the description below, or you can become a channel member. If you do either one of those two easily doable things, you can funnel money our way. It's kind of like laundering money, only it's legal, kind of. And we can continue to do this silly nonsense online because, we have to pay off the people who we owe money to. They're going to break our knees and our thumbs. And I like my knees and my thumbs.
Well, I think that's the best way to call out to our audience is please give us money and support us. And I think it's the best way to leave it. All right, guys, we'll see you next time on the VHS Vault.